Welcome to Forest of Hawthorn, Lesson 2, Hedge Riding. I have always been led to understand that being a hedge witch meant that you walked between the worlds, with one foot in this reality and another over the hedge in the other world. However, it seems more recently the name of hedge witch has come to refer to a solitary witch. Here are my suggestions on what being a hedge witch covers. Is practiced by solitary witches. Works with the otherworld, spirit work, and shamanic practices, riding the hedge. Involves the study of plants and nature. Is reminiscent of the ancient cunning folk and wise men and women who lived on the outskirts of society. Magic is interwoven with daily life and mundane chores. Works with the herbal world for remedies and spell working. Works with the spirit of the land. Connects with the spirit of the plants. Connects with the spirit of animals. Keeps the magical practice simple and uncomplicated. Living and working in tune with nature and the seasons, has seer abilities, uses shamanic and siddha practices. Whilst the term hedge witch does seem to be a modern one, the practice that it covers is very old. There is some suggestion the term hedge rider derives from the Saxon word hagtessa, the idea being the cunning folk lived on the outskirts of the town, literally the other side of the hedge, between the towns and the wilderness. This also being represented by the cunning folk being able to walk between the worlds, riding the hedge to the other world. I've done a bit of research on the etymology, and this is what I have found. The suggestion that Hegtessa means hedge rider can be found on various internet searches, but they all seem to stem back to the books by Ray Beth. The Old English word hagtess seems to mean witch, sorceress, enchantress, or what we often see, the shortened version of hag. In Dutch, hex and German hexe would both mean witch. The Old English word for hedge is hegd or haga in Dutch. It could be heg. The Old Norse, we find the word tunrida and Old High German Zunrither, both which translate to hedge rider, which was used to refer to witches and ghosts. It is suggested the term hegtessa could have derived at one time to those that gave prophecies or had oracular powers. Later on it covered village wise women in general. Note, this is interestingly a feminine version of the word, with seemingly no masculine version, although I do believe there were male cunning folk. The term hagga also refers to the hawthorn tree. In the 1500s, it seems the hedge was poorly thought of and represented a place for vagabonds to shelter or resort. And to suggest somebody was a hedge anything was to imply they carried out their trade under a hedge because they were poor and of the lower class. It seems the term may have roots in history after all, with slightly different meanings depending on which time period you look at, with variations in meaning from hedge rider, witch, soothsayer, hag, healer, herbalist, and of course one who has a foot in both this world and the other world. In Norse, the term hegtessa is sometimes used as an alternative term for the Norns, the three goddesses of fate. Hedge riding is very shamanic and incorporates the art of seer, pronounced Seda, which is from Old Norse. The term Seda translates to mean cord, string, or snare. It describes a form of magic and shamanic practice that involves working within the structure of fate to bring about changes. To do this, the practitioner uses a ritual stick or spindle to weave their goal by entering a trance state and interacting with the other world. Whatever the history of the term, it is now used to describe a wonderfully magical pathway. Boundaries and liminal places. Why the use of the word hedge? It is an in-between region, a boundary between places, and a magically liminal space. In fields, you will find a hedge marking the boundaries between other fields, trackways, and woodlands. For the hedge witch, the hedge is a boundary between our world and the other world, a liminal space that leads into other realms. There are plenty of liminal places, those that are in between, not just physically, but also spiritually and between worlds. One of my favourite liminal places is the shore where the ocean meets the land. Doorways and gateways are also liminal spots. Anyone that is familiar with the Labyrinth film, and if you are not, why not, will recognise the goblins stand in the doorway of Sarah's house. This is because doorways are a liminal place between our world and theirs. You might work with the idea of the world tree or Yggdrasil. Both of these are gateways or portals to the other worlds. Yggdrasil forms the centre of Norse spirituality, providing an entryway into the 9 worlds. The world or cosmic tree can be found in many cultures and represents a connection between the heavens and the earth, often providing a connection between our world and that of deity or the divine. The tree symbolism is important as it provides a recognisable image that we can usually all relate to, with branches stretching up into the skies, a solid trunk on the earth, and roots that stretch down below the ground. A clear symbol to work easily with the upper, middle, and underworlds. Hedge riding. Let us delve into the other world, leap over the hedge, ride our broomsticks over the boundary, and step into the other realms. But first I'm going to give the bossy and warranted warnings. Hedge riding is the term given for stepping from this world into the other realms, and it can be done in various ways. It is important to note this is not just meditating. This is going into a deeper trance to cross a boundary. You may enter the unknown, the unfamiliar, the wilds, different places, different times, and definitely other realms. You might meet animal spirits, plant spirits, deities, or members of the fairy world. Are there any dangers to head riding? Yes, but not if you are sensible. This is not a practice to work with because you are bored or just want to take a relaxing meditation. It does not work like that. This is serious work and requires dedication and experience to work with. I would recommend only attempting hedge riding if you have several years of witchcraft experience behind you. You need to know what you are doing and how to deal with any issues you might come across. This is not an adventure for the novice. Do not hedge ride if you are feeling ill or angry. I would also advise against hedge riding if you are suffering from any kind of mental illness. It could aggravate your condition and cause you serious mental and emotional harm. Do not go into this unprepared. I usually only hedge ride when I have a reason to do so. Hedge riding can give you insight and guidance into an issue, a problem, or help with a decision. But it also has a shamanic side. You can hedge ride to seek out the spirit of a plant or animal to provide healing and wisdom. Coming out of the hedge riding abruptly or before you have finished can leave you feeling totally spaced out and even quite physically ill. Always ground yourself after any hedge riding, or in fact any energy work at all. Otherwise, you can be left feeling lightheaded, unfocused, and end up with a banging headache. How do you get there? Whilst some folk like to use hallucinogens, drugs, or alcohol to enter a trance state, I personally do not advise doing so. There are other methods to use to induce the kind of trance state required that do not endanger your health or safety. You need to allow your subconscious mind to lead the way when you are hedge riding, but you also need to keep your conscious mind in control. If they are working together, you are safe and also able to see things more clearly. You do not need any special or magical tools. You are not required to set up an altar or dress in anything particular unless you want to. Sometimes key items, clothing or paraphernalia can help. It is a personal choice. I don't always cast a circle or perform a ritual. My home is protected anyway, and if I am out in nature, the gods look after me. But if you feel drawn to bring in some protection, go for it. Whilst I do not wear anything fancy or specific, you need to feel comfortable. I do work with a blanket that I keep for wrapping around my shoulders, specifically when I meditate, journey, or hedge ride. Most importantly, I use a journey pouch. This is a key item for me. Rattles and drums can be used to get you into a trance state, but they can also help clear away any negative energies, call to the spirit guides, and help bring in healing energies. I would also advise smudging your room before you begin any journey. I have an amazing stag skin drum that I was honoured and lucky enough to birth myself, and it is very special to me. Just the action of beating a simple drum rhythm can work to enter a trance state. But it does not need to be a fancy drum. A tambourine, a rattle, or an old cookie tin can be used. You can also source shamanic drum beats using the music app on your phone. Ointments. You have probably read or heard about flying ointments. These did actually exist and were usually made of all sorts of nasty and fairly lethal ingredients, such as deadly nightshade and foxglove. Personally, I would avoid these. It's really not worth taking a chance. Instead of an ointment, you can use incense blended with herbs and natural items that correspond to contacting the spirit world, other world, and to aid psychic abilities. Rocking backwards and forwards. This action can help you relax and enter a trance state. Make yourself comfortable in a space where you will not be disturbed. Sitting on the ground is better for this, as there is less likelihood of you falling off a chair. Ground yourself and work with your breath technique. Begin to sway backward and forward. Keep the rhythm slow and steady. You might also like to include a chant to help. Keep doing this until you find yourself in trance. Then you can focus on your purpose. You will often find the swaying movement naturally comes to a stop whilst you're in trance. When you have completed your task, slowly and gently come back to this reality. Troy stones. This method of taking you into a trance uses a tool referred to as a Troy stone. It is a flat piece of wood, ceramic, or clay that has a maze or labyrinth carved onto the surface. You place the Troy stone on your lap in front of you, and once you have done your grounding and breath work, you place your finger at the beginning of the carved design. Moving your finger slowly through the maze, spiral, or labyrinth pattern, it gently takes you into a trance state. This method is helped with the aid of a chant to accompany the journey. It takes a bit of practice and strong concentration to work with a Troy stone, as the images are usually not large and do not take long to move through. It is important to trace the image very slowly and bring in your total attention. Going through the actions too quickly will result in nothing happening. Journey beads. The idea of journey beads works in a similar way to rosary beads. You hold the string of beads in your hands and slowly pass each bead through your fingers. You can count each bead or use a chant to help enter a trance state. You could also associate each bead with colours, numbers, or words of the chant. I use a set of mala beads. Chanting. Chanting is a repetitive, lyrical way to send yourself off into trance. Repeat a phrase or sentence, or write yourself a chant to use specifically for hedge riding. You can also play music that helps you enter the other world state. Chants can be extremely simple. It is the repetition that helps you enter the trance state. Try using just a few words to begin with. Something like, hedge ride, take me over to see. Hedge ride, take me over to thee. Liminal spaces. If you are able to physically visit any liminal spaces, you will find the hedge riding experience an interesting one. Sit quietly on the beach at the water's edge, or find a comfortable and safe spot outside in the countryside beside a hedge, and then use the landscape as your visual prompt to enter the other worlds. A tree or hedge may already have an obvious portal, but it may also take a bit of searching with your inner eye to find it. Some trees lend themselves to this better than others. I find the old trees usually are excellent, where they have gnarled and twisted. Hedge, Hedgerows are also wonderful to work with, but be mindful that most of them are on farmland or private property. Make sure you have permission to access them. Also be mindful about sitting on a public footpath. You do not want to be disturbed. You do not need to physically jump over the hedge because that could be difficult and probably quite dangerous. Sit yourself in front of the hedge and spend some time looking at it, really looking. Use all of your senses and take note of every detail. Then allow yourself to send your spiritual body over the top or through the centre of it. You can perform the treading of the mill if you prefer, or take your stang with you and use that as a connection between the worlds. I like to keep my eyes open when working with this outside, partly for safety and to be mindful of other folk passing, but also because the natural world also responds to my presence. Keep an open mind and you may see or hear animals or other worldly flickers. The three worlds. We need to take a look at the idea of the three worlds. It is these other worlds that you will step into when you ride the hedge. Each one is unique, and you will find different entities in them. I'm going to describe the general ideas, but your experience may be different. There is no definitive here. The underworld, Hades, Tir na Nog, Helheim. The lower world is the one I visit the most often. The underworld, or the lower world, as it is sometimes called, is not a deep, dark, fiery hell pit. Really, it isn't. It can, however, be seen as darker than the middle world. It may often appear as a cave or as a primordial jungle. You can find dangers in the underworld, but you can also meet them in the middle and upper world too. The underworld is earthy, stable and grounding. It is the base from which the world grows. The underworld deals with emotions, our intuition, and our basic needs. You may meet ancestors here, animal guides, guardians, plant spirits, and the underworld kings and queens, along with the fairy realm to be found here. If you are very experienced in hedge riding, this is also the place to do soul retrieval. The middle world, Earth, Midgard, Bith. The middle world is often used as a place for time travel. The middle world is very much like our own, and you can find yourself in a place with buildings, houses, cities, and the country too. This world is as much full of bad spirits as it is good, so be wary. You will find earth and fertility deities here along with the elementals, land guardian spirits, messenger deities, nature spirits, and the wild hunt. I don't visit the middle world regularly. It is mostly used for meeting past and future selves and sometimes the ancestors. The upper world, Avalon, Asgard, Olympus. This world is stunning and I visit here frequently. Spirits here live here and it shows. Think beautiful landscapes, dreamy clouds, sparkling streams and all that is amazing. This is the place to meet and greet spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, devas, deity, and animal guides. It is the upper astral and spiritual plane and a place of enlightenment. This world will show you knowledge, inspiration, ideas, and wisdom and provide healing. The upper world can also help you remove yourself from your ego and see things as they really are. Staff, stang, and besom. If you like to work with a physical item to help you step into the other world, a staff, stang, or besom work well. They can be used as representations of the world tree. A staff or stang is also useful when walking or foraging for poking around in the undergrowth and pulling down overhanging tree branches to reach the fruit or seeds. Practical and spiritual. A stang is a wooden staff with two prongs. These represent the meetings of two worlds, two energies, the masculine and the feminine. I have used both a stang and a carved wooden staff with equal success. You can use just a fallen stick that you find when you're out and about. A besom works as well, but can be a bit cumbersome. If you prefer, you can also work with a wand. It is after all perhaps just a miniature staff. If you are looking at getting a staff, stang or wand, do have a look into the magical properties of the wood they are made from. This can be useful when seeking one specifically for hedge riding. A staff or wand can be made from a fallen branch or stick. You can put out a request when you go for a walk and see what nature provides for you. It can be kept as it is with the bark still on, au naturel, so to speak, or you can strip the bark, sand the wood, and oil or varnish it. Symbols or sigils can be carved into the wood if you feel drawn to do so. Feathers, beads, and crystals can be attached to the top as well. It really is personal choice, but I find it good to go with what the wood instructs me to do. The term stang arises from Old Norse strong or strange and means pole. Sometimes you will find a stang that has been created using horns or antlers on the top, and often a traditional stang will include an iron nail at the base, reminiscent of a horseshoe. This idea suggests the representation of a horse for the magical practitioner to ride over into the other realms. The stang provides several uses for magical purpose. One of those is to create the hallowing of the compass, and another is to serve as a portable altar. Your stang can also be used as a wand to direct energy. For the purpose of hedge riding, the stang becomes a representation of the world tree, the axis mundi, and is used as the centre point for your journey. Whilst a stang is occasionally used in ritual to represent both the goddess and the god, it really is the old one, the horned god. The besom or broom has a wooden handle with twigs fastened at one end. It can be used for practical purpose of sweeping floors, but also is used in ritual to symbolically clean away any negative energy while preparing for ritual. The besom is a symbol of flying over the hedge or crossing into the other world. This means the besom too can be used for hedge riding in a similar way to the stang. A traditional besom is often made from three types of wood: the handle from ash, the brushes from birch twigs, which are bound together with willow. A traditional besom is never fixed with wire or metal. The besom balances nicely with the stang as it carries strong feminine energies to counter the stang's masculine. You will be familiar with the besom at hand fastings, where the couple jump the broomstick. This represents crossing over from one state, single life, to another, being a couple. Journey bag. Many hedge witches and shamanic practitioners have a journey bag they use to keep magical items in to aid their travels to the other world. Every bag will be personal and specific to each individual. It might contain beads, shells, feathers, pebbles, herbs, crystals. If you decide to make your own bag, be guided by your intuition and add whatever you feel is necessary to help you on your hedge riding. I purchased a fat quarter piece of fabric, approximately 50 by 55 centimetres or 19 by 22 inches, from a haberdashery. Fat quarters are an excellent way of purchasing smaller pieces of fabric at a reasonable price that can be used as altar cloths, to wrap tarot or oracle cards, or to create journey bags. If you look in the autumn, you can often find spooky witchy themed fat quarters too. My piece of fabric is folded up with the items inside and then tied with a piece of leather thong, and it sits on my altar. When I'm ready to journey, I undo the bag and open the fabric out flat to show the contents. Inside, I have all sorts of things, and they change from time to time depending on how I feel or what I feel it needs added or taken away. There are crystals and herbs that are associated with psychic abilities, astral travel, and the other world. Herb suggestions. These are all associated with the magic of psychic abilities, astral travel, or the underworld, the other world. These can be used in journey bags, incense blends, spell work, or to dress candles. Almond, apple, bay, borage, buttercup, cinnamon, cornflower, dandelion, grass, heather, honeysuckle, juniper, mace, marigold, mugwort, mustard, parsley, rose, rowan, saffron, sage, sea holly, star anise, tansy, thistle, thyme, tobacco, valerian, wormwood, yarrow, yew. Crystal suggestions. These are all associated with the magic of psychic abilities, astral travel, or the other world. These can be used in journey bags, incense blends, spell work, or held in your hand on your journey. Amber, green aventurine, celestite, chrysocolla, citrine, copper, garnet, howlite, kyanite, labradorite, lepidolite, malachite, moonstone, black obsidian, pyrite, clear quartz, rhodonite, selenite, silver, sodalite, sugarlite, tiger's eye, tourmaline, and turquoise. Other items you could add to your journey bag. Items to represent the elements of earth, air, fire, and water, such as a pebble, a feather, a matchstick, and a shell. Buttons to open and close doorways. Pictures of your ancestors or items that belong to them. Image of your spirit animal guide. Small animal bones or teeth. These can help link you to the other world and your spirit animal guide. Be guided by your intuition and what you feel needs to be added. Remember the contents of your journey bag. Not static. They can be removed or added at any time. Preparation. Hedge riding is more than meditation, much more. It is similar to path working, sometimes called journeying, inner plane work, or vision quests. It is a structured form of meditation with a purpose to it, a guided journey into the other world, and it goes much deeper than regular meditation. Hedge riding journeys need some preparation. Once you are experienced, you may not need to lay out every little detail each time. But if you are a beginner, it really helps to have a framework in place. Start with the setting. Are you going to include your hedge ride with a full ritual or hallowing the compass, or just a standalone journey? Then the induction. How are you going to put yourself into a trance-like state? Will you tread the mill, drum, or something else? Plan out your journey, beginning with the image you will use to step over the hedge or through the tree. Decide what you need from this trip. Why are you journeying? What portal will you take? What is your destination? What or who would you like to encounter? Obviously, you will probably encounter some things you didn't plan for, but it makes it even more worthwhile. Will you set out specific candles, herbs, or crystals? Are you using a journey bag? And if so, where will you set it down? And does it need any additions? I find it also pays to take a moment to fix the entry place in your mind once you have stepped through. Reach out to touch the entryway. How does it feel, smell, or any sounds? This just helps you find your way back to the entry point once you're finished with your hedge ride journey. If your hedge ride is to meet a specific animal or plant spirit, do some research. Make sure you know what it looks like, where it grows or lives, and what habitat you should be looking for. Being prepared makes for a more successful and productive hedge ride. Ritual. Lots of spiritual folk will perform a full ritual when working any kind of magic or journey. I do not. When working within my own home, my boundaries are regularly protected, so I don't feel the need to bring an extra protection when I hedge ride, or indeed when I work any kind of spell. You may feel more comfortable bringing in a full ritual structure around your hedge riding. The basic structure that you are probably familiar with reflects a Wiccan ritual, so I have given the outline for you to adapt to your own liking. When I work with a ritual structure for hedge riding, I tend to use the hallowing of the compass route, which is included below as well. Use all of the ritual structure, just parts of it, or none of it. The choice is yours. Hallowing the compass. The idea of a compass uses the basis of a circle, similar to casting a circle. Any idea that we are probably all familiar with. However, here the circle casting and quarter calling are combined to use the idea of a compass as a protective circle, the boundary between worlds, creating our own liminal space. It could be called conjuring the circle, laying the ground, ploughing the furrow, or simply creating sacred space. You can make it as grand or as simple as you like, but for the solitary practitioner, I like to keep it straightforward, and it can just literally be walking around the edge of your sacred space to create a circle. The idea is to create a space that is separate from the mundane world, an area that is designated as sacred and magical, one that you can step into to perform magic and or connect with the other world. It can also be used to provide a circle of protection. Once you have set your compass area, it becomes sacred and just outside of the usual restrictions of the mundane world. What you create, basically, is a portal to the other world. Or if you want to think about it like this, hallowing the compass creates a magical hedge, a boundary between the worlds that we may step over, or in fact, hedge ride. What do you need to hallow the compass? Nothing physical. But what you do need is your energy and visualization skills. You have to create the boundary using your own intent. You can walk around the area, you can chant, or say magical words. But if you don't lend your intent, will, and energy to create it, then all you're doing is walking and talking. The portal will only be created if you make it happen. It takes work and effort. Some will see the compass as a flat circle. Others prefer to expand that circle and create a sphere going above and below. So what works for you? Do that. There is no right or wrong here. Once your compass circle has been put in place, you can fix it or give it more physical presence by calling in the elements from each of the compass directions. What you are doing is inviting spiritual energy from each of the compass directions to lend their magic to your ritual or working. This is not essential to do, and you can just work with the compass circle as it is. But this does lend another layer of energy to whatever you are working with. The four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, are actually already with us in all that we do, but inviting them in helps you become more aware of them and their characteristics, and makes it easier for you to work with them. I work with the elements at these compass points: earth, north; air, east; fire, south; water, west. There is no right or wrong here. Work with them as you feel is right. Trust your intuition on this one. You are creating and forming pathways within your circle compass that to lead to and from the centre. It is also important to note that when you invite the elements or deity into your compass circle or to join you in ritual, they do not have to acquiesce to your request. It is also worth bearing in mind that all the elements, and even deity to some extent, are ever present. Even if you dismiss them from your right, they will still be there. When you invite them to join you, you are asking them to lend their energies, wisdom, support, and presence to your ritual and whatever spell work or journeying you are working with. It is only right and proper to thank them for their help and assistance once you are done. They will not disappear completely because they are always around, but you have let them know that you no longer require their immediate attention. If you have a stang or staff, use it to mark each compass point. Start with north and place your staff upright in the ground at the north point of your compass circle. Walk back to the centre of the compass circle and face your staff. See and feel the energy of that element. Then walk to your staff, take it in your hand and use it to draw the circle from the north point to the next compass point. See the circle being formed as you draw the curve of the line. Place your staff upright in the ground at the next compass point and repeat your actions by walking to the centre, facing the direction, seeing and feeling the element energy coming in. Repeat this until you have brought together all 4 compass points and drawn your compass circle. You can say a chant as you do this or just work with your visualizations. You can walk the circle once, or I like to do this 3 times. Sometimes it takes a few more circuits. It depends on the situation. The idea of walking the edge of the compass is to create that sacred space inside and to separate you from the real world. You should feel a change in the atmosphere. If you don't have a staff or stang, you can do this using your wand or just your finger. Once you have done this, return to the centre. Notice how the inside of the compass circle feels. If you like, you can also visualize the circle extending to cover above and below you, forming a sphere. Then connect with the 4 compass points, compass directions. Feel the energy from each of the elements connecting with you. Once you have hallowed the compass, you have opened a sacred space that gives you access to the other world. So it is only right and sensible to close it down once you have finished with it. This is a very simple process. Begin by standing in the centre of the sacred space and allow the elements to release. Let the lines of the sphere retract back from the centre to the outer edges. Walk in the opposite direction around the perimeter, allowing the circle to dissipate. Let the energy flow back into Mother Earth or up to Father Sky. You can sweep the circle if you prefer, clearing away the energy of the compass. Treading the mill. Treading, pacing, or working the mill is a technique used in traditional witchcraft, and it does what it says on the tin. You have a fixed point in the centre, usually a stang or a staff, and you tread around it in a circle. Think about the idea of a donkey walking around and around, turning a millstone to grind the wheat, and you have the right idea. Not that I'm suggesting you are a donkey, obviously. The physical movement of walking in a circle whilst keeping your eyes focused on the central point helps put you in a state of mind ready for you to ride the hedge. However, it can also be used to raise energy if you need to for the purpose of spellcasting. This practice can be done inside or out. It does not matter, but you will need space to walk around a central object. Outside obviously allows you to stick your staff or stang into the ground, making it slightly easier to use as your focus. Usually this is preceded by hallowing your compass first. If you do not have a stang or staff, you could use a wand, a besom, or in fact any object that you can place in the centre that can be used to hold your focus. Begin to walk around in a circle. Keep your eyes set on the central point, but face your body in the direction you're walking. This means your head will be turned to one side as you walk. Try and keep your pace slow and steady to begin with, although you may find you do quicken up. Go with the flow. You might like to work with a short chant or to help the rhythm. As you walk around, keep your eyes focused on the centre. You will begin to feel the energy building, and you should naturally begin to enter a trance state. You will feel relaxed and focused. Keep your senses open to whatever or whoever appears to you. It might be visual, it might be words, sounds, or emotions. Be open to whatever happens. But know that you are ultimately always in control. You might find you continue to tread the mill whilst you are experiencing the other world. You may find that you come to a stop. Once you enter the other world, you may find you drop down to a seated position. There is no right or wrong here. Once you begin to become aware of your surroundings again, then the journey has come to a natural end. At this point, give yourself a few minutes to fully come back to this reality, then ground. It is also advisable to eat and drink something. Do not forget to give offerings to the otherworld spirits at this point too. Each journey experience may well be different. Some will take you deep and long. Others may not even get you over the threshold. Trust your intuition and know that each one is meant to be whatever it is. Once you have the hang of treading the mill, using the method above, it is possible to step into the other world using a simpler method. Still using your stang, staff, or besom, but this time sit yourself comfortably in a chair or on the floor. Hold your staff in both hands and place it between your knees and legs in front of you. When you are ready to work, tap the staff sharply on the ground. Now close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. I like to lean the top of the staff towards me so the wood is touching my forehead. Then you can devise your own method of stepping into the other realms using a guided path working scenario. Once you have finished your journey, come back to your starting point and step back through the veil and into this reality. Obviously, it goes without saying, please do not drive straight after this type of journey. Give yourself time to fully come back to this reality. Hedge riding guardian. What I do recommend is finding a guardian to guide you on your hedge riding journeys. This will provide you with support and guidance each time you step into the other realms. You may find that your animal spirit greets you on your first visit, and then each subsequent visit they will be waiting for you. You may even discover the spirit guide crosses over and walks with you on a regular basis whenever you meditate or work magic. To find or request an animal spirit guide for the other realms, you can begin by hallowing the compass or casting a circle and calling in the quarters if you wish. You will need to walk between the worlds to find them. Flying ointment. The idea of a witch flying about on her broomstick seems to have been around for a few centuries. The earliest known image shows 3 witches, each of them with the head of an animal, all riding forked branches. Each part of the witch and the broomstick lore is that of flying ointment. The first written mention of that was in 1456 by Johannes Hartleb. A story from 1477 was given by Antone Rose, who claimed the devil gave her a long stick on which she was to run an ointment. Then she was to shout, "Go in the name of the devil, go," and she would be able to fly through the air on the stick. What were the ingredients in these infamous flying ointments? Recipes have appeared in various texts such as the Magian Tralis from 1558. In 1436, Johannes Nider, in his Formula Charis, wrote that boiled unbaptized babies were the main ingredient. In Discovery of Witchcraft from 1584, Reginald Scott wrote that bowels and members of children dug from their graves were boiled in a cauldron to create a grease used in the flying ointment. In the Silvarium from 1608, written by Lord Venulium, Francis Bacon, writes, "The ointment that witches use is reported to be made from the fat of children dug out of their graves, of the juices of smallage, wolfbane, and cinquefoil, mingled with the meal of fine wheat. But I suppose that the sopiferous medicines are likeliest to do it, which are henbane, hemlock, mandrake, moonshade, tobacco, opium, saffron, and poplar leaves." I suspect the use of fat, more likely to have been lard rather than babies, obviously, was to create a usable cream base. The idea of babies being used would probably have come from the church as a slur against those that practiced the art of witchcraft. Some of the ingredients would have been incredibly toxic and produced an hallucinogenic effect. The chemicals in a number of the herbs mentioned would have produced a psychoactive and or sedative effect. I would not recommend creating or working with any of the old recipes. Most of them include very toxic items that would be potentially dangerous to you and your health. However, there are some that can still be used and modern alternatives that won't get you killed, maimed, or arrested. Some of these are used in homeopathic medicine, but, and here is the important part, They should only be prescribed by a qualified herbalist that has taken into account any medical history or medications. Never self-diagnose or self-prescribe. I have erred on the side of caution here. You could make flying ointments to add to your pulse points, or an essential oil blend for anointing your third eye. Alternatively, you could create an incense blend or herbal tea to help your journey. Experiment and have fun with your creations. If it doesn't smell or taste right on the first attempt, tweak it or create a new one for the next time. Some of my suggestions used to use in flying ointment: almond, apple, cinnamon, cinquefoil, grapefruit, heather, jasmine, marigold, mugwort, poppy, rose, star anise, wormwood, yarrow. Flying ointment balm. This balm can be used to rub on your pulse points, wrists and temples to impart the magic to help you hedge ride. Basic recipe: 56 grams, 2 ounces base oil such as almond, coconut or grapeseed. 28 grams, 1 ounce beeswax or soy wax. 20 drops of your chosen essential oils. Melt your base oil and beeswax slowly over a double boiler, stirring occasionally with a wooden spoon. When the beeswax is completely melted, add the essential oils, stir, and immediately pour carefully into tins or jars. Leave to cool completely for several hours, then pop on lids. Flying ointment blend. Flying oil blend. Used to anoint your pulse points and your third eye before hedge riding. Oil blends can also be added to an oil burner. I pop a piece of wax into the top first and then add the oil. It stops it from burning. Please test a drop of 2 on a small area of your skin before you go slapping on loads of oil, just in case you are allergic to it. Never put essential oil straight onto your skin. Always mix it into a base oil first. For a blend to use in an oil burner, bath or diffuser, you can create a blend without using a base oil. Any blend you're intending to use on your skin for anointing or massage needs to be diluted with a base oil. Basic recipe: 10 mils of a base oil, 20 to 25 drops of an essential oil. You may prefer to take a hedge riding herbal tea or incense blend rather than a balm. Homework. 1. Decide how you wish to step over the boundary. Write out the sequence and journey you wish to take. Work with your journey to the other world and write about your experiences. How did you travel? And what or whom did you meet? Did you meet your otherworld guide? Take some time with this lesson and make several journeys. Try to experience each world and detail your experiences. What purpose did you set beforehand? How did you prepare? 2. Research flying ointment and write about your findings. How do you feel about the myths attached to it and the use of it then and today? 3. Create your own flying ointment or flying incense blend. What would you put in it? 4. Make a journey bag or pouch. How did you create it and what did you use? Include a photograph. Homework for each lesson should be emailed to your mentor, Ness or Heather, at the usual email address. There are links to the further study below.